Howard.
Yeah, how you doing? Just so you know, I don't have a lot of time. There's a lot going on right now
Okay.
relative to democratic politics. So I have a meeting shortly. So
Okay.
kind of get my piece of this moved up the agenda. That'd be helpful.
All righty. Well, if you can fill us in on how things are developing as far as the county legislature and what you guys have been talking about, that would be good.
Well, are you referring to broadband, digital divide?
Yeah, the broadband issue.
Yeah, so it's really not a county legislature issue yet. What it is a group of people, Rachel Bonhart, who did her I think master's thesis actually. I did my doctoral dissertation on broadband. We found out a while ago through Rachel that the county has this fiber ring that has never really been developed. So with the advent of COVID and that kind of ripping a scab off of the access issue of people who simply can't afford high-speed broadband and or the peripherals to actually use the bandwidth, we decided to put a kind of a group of people together to try to figure out a way if we can create a public-private partnership so that we can get broadband in the hands of people who need it, as well as the peripherals, that would be laptops and other devices that can help children learn. For me personally, as a retired superintendent of schools, when I first pursued the issue back in 2007, I considered it a civil rights issue, because you're not going to withhold textbooks from kids. Why are you going to withhold access to high-speed broadband where kids can kind of learn a lot on their own? I learned this a really long time ago when my daughter was in the 6th grade, and she had an assignment about the Parthenon, and we couldn't find anything of substance in textbooks or encyclopedias. So we went out to the internet in its infancy. This is 20 years ago. And we ended up landing at the University of Indiana, Bloomfield, and a bunch of experts on Parthenon created a website for her to do her research. So it really kind of confirmed for me that kids need access to high-speed digital technology, and it changes constantly. So the status of it right now is we're trying to find partners, and we're starting to get interest now from corporations because obviously they're interested in selling their technology. And how do we create kind of this partnership where I don't like to use the word free because nothing is free, but come up with a way to provide subsidies so that for people who have no income, they would be subsidized completely.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at. I'm expecting some news within the next couple of weeks where a task force or a working group will be officially announced, and we'll get to work, and there's a real sense of urgency to get it done.
That's great, yeah, because we had looked into that for the Southwest back about 2011, I think, and that we just didn't come up with a way to pay for the type of system we were trying to do.
Kind of an interesting story. I retired in 2010, and I did my dissertation in 2007. So as I was finishing this up, I went out, and one of the advantages, one of the things you learn, that if you have a majority member in the Senate and a majority member in the Assembly, you can get a lot of state money. So we ended up getting a grant from David Kuhn for $175,000, and we modeled broadband deployment after the city of Geneva, which has a very sophisticated system. And we could have put up 4 towers and given everybody in the community free access, because we got our fiber bandwidth through BOCES. We were only using 10% of it. So I suspect that with 5G technology, I'm no expert in that area right now, but what I'm hearing is that we can get fiber access to many people, but we can also get Wi-Fi access through by putting up some towers. And the good news is the county owns buildings in a variety of places. So getting those towers on county buildings could be a way to get this done. And we're talking to providers, because I think the way you make this work is you don't say this is just the government's role, you don't think it's just the business's role, it's a private-public partnership, and you create a structure that basically says that this isn't free, we're not giving anything away free, but we will provide subsidies for people who need it.
Yeah.
I think it works.
Yeah, certainly a lot of the companies that are supplying fiber now would have a benefit from being able to use some of the county fiber, which is just sitting there dark right now.
Right.
I don't know if that's one way of getting them on board, but
Yeah, like I said, I just want to be very clear about there's a real sense of urgency on the part of at least 2 county legislators and the county itself through the county executive, and then other partners in a variety of organizations. So I'm optimistic that we're going to get this done.
good. Have you been talking with folks in the city at all, or?
Yeah. Do you know Simeon Bannister?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Rochester Area Community Foundation.
yeah,
Okay.
he's part of this, and
Nice.
you know, there's analyst from the county who runs economic development from the county is involved. And you know, right now we're just pretty much, we're kind of a working group. You know, when you study the research about where this actually happened and was done really well, it was dealt a fatal blow by corporate America when it looked like it was going to be a government-run thing and they were going to be out of business. And you know, I want to make sure that everybody is clear that we want to create public-private partnerships so that we meet the needs of kind of corporate America, but also meet the needs of people who don't have the resources through subsidies. I mean, that's how we do a lot of things in America. It could be Medicaid, a Medicaid model for broadband deployment. So I think we have enough people who are involved in a variety of organizations that, you know, we can come to the table and try to create consensus around a model that will work. Because one thing this pandemic has proven is that for a developed nation, we're kind of pathetic in the way we do high-speed broadband.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, that's how we got into this, was primarily looking at all the difficulties the city school district was having in getting hotspots for kids to get online and getting equipment out, and it seemed like the highlighting that the COVID crisis was putting on this whole issue of having everybody connect to broadband was kind of a once in several year situation, and we really should make progress while the ability to focus the energy is there.
And you know, some of the answer might not be actually fiber connection, because there's a variety of, you know, Wi-Fi over the air type technologies that are developing. So, and Tesla is involved right now. And my understanding is they have a model, I forgot the name of it now, where they'll have satellites that'll
Oh yeah,
help facilitate this. So what we want to make sure is that whatever group we create has the expertise instructionally, so we have educators and then business people who run businesses, but then technical people who understand how to get this done and done right.
So I'm going to step in on the Wi-Fi on tower model. This is Sean Harrigan, sorry, I joined a bit late, so I wasn't here for intros. I'm going to say that it is my experience that any place that has leaves, it is not a good model. Just the frequencies it uses tend to be heavily interrupted by leafy vegetation. And so you really need kind of a line of sight if you're going to have trees in neighborhoods.
Is this for the satellite one? I'm
No, no, no.
sorry.
For tower-based non-cellular band Wi-Fi, where you use basically the same is just regular Wi-Fi for long range home level connections. I've seen lots of problems with deployments in places that have large amounts of trees, specifically in Minnesota's and the Wisconsins of the world. So
That's why we want experts at the table. So I think the solution is going to be a variety of options.
yeah, it has worked really well in Arizona, but you know, we're not. So
So can Sean be on your partnership?
Well, I think at some point, I mean, if you're interested, my email is Howard Maffucci, one word, @gmail.com. And send me your information and I'll talk to the group.
Okay. Yeah, Sean worked with us back when we were looking at this a few years ago, and he's got a lot of background on what we were trying to accomplish back then. But of course, technology has moved along quite a bit now, and I'm not sure if the 5G is something that is an issue we need to think about now, or what. But okay. Yeah, we got started kind of quickly because I wanted to make sure that Howard had a chance to review where he stood. If we could just go around for a quick go around to introduce ourselves. Leo, do you want to start off?
Leah Festenstein, I'm the community school site coordinator at school number 10.
Okay. Patricia?
Hi, I'm Pat Conrad and Branch Administration for the Rochester Public Library.
And Howard,
Retired as superintendent of schools, East Rochester Schools, did that for 14 years. After being a high school principal, assistant principal, that kind of stuff. And I'm currently a county legislator, representing parts of Pittsburgh, part of Brighton, and part of East Rochester.
and Joe?
I forgot.
Joe? Or whoever, yeah.
Sean Harrigan. I've been in telco in one form or another for the past about decade, and then prior to that, a series of assorted jobs that I held after the .com bust when I had originally been in tech.
And Joe Baldino?
Hi, yes, I'm principal school 29, and I've been here entering my fifth year as principal here, but I spent a lot of time in 19th Ward. I was a teacher with John Silver School and John Lang and all kinds of people. So I've been around for quite a while. Lots of time in the 19th Ward. Actually, my 25th year, or 24th year as an educator in 19th Ward. So it was kind of cool to be in a position back in the 19th Ward. Thank you.
Great. Chantal?
Hi, Chantal Lisher, Community School Site Coordinator at Wilson. I have been in 200 Genesee Street since 2002. So, hi.
Mary Coffey?
I am not a teacher. I was years ago. However, I am. I was a social worker and worked within our inner city, and I keep saying I'm not there anymore, but my conscience still is. So I'm a strong advocate for good education and good jobs in order to raise many of our people out of the generational poverty that has kept them down and suppressed for so many years. So I'm here with the Education End.
Thank you. Melody? Oh, you're
There we go. Now I'm unmuted. I'm also a community site coordinator at 19. I've been in the district. I just finished my 20th, so I'm going into my 21st year. Been in lots of different schools across the city. This is my first, second year in the 19th ward. And Mr. Maffucci used to be my principal. I know you've had lots of students in your life, so you probably don't remember me. I still live in East Rochester, and my kids come there too.
Nice to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Monique?
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Monique Silas, Lee Proud Principal, Dr. Charles Gunsford School number 19. Born and reared in 19th Ward. I went to Wilson. Mr. Baldino and I go way back, so happy to be here. Thank you.
Great. And Destiny?
I'm currently serving as the AmeriCorps Vista for the 4-H Youth Development Program.
Great. Did we miss anyone? I think we're all set.
There's
Honor
another.
Coleman, the scribe.
Oh, yes. How could we forget Eleanor?
Never.
And there's enough of us on here, I have to say, go Wildcats.
Yes, my kids went there. Okay, well, yeah,
John, I'm gonna have to move on, so. thank you.
okay, and we'll get a chance to talk about this when we have the coalition meeting in a few days there.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you very much, Howard.
Thank you.
That's the good work.
Bye, Melody.
Bye.
Great. Yeah, we had, let's see, wait a minute. Cameron Clyburn, I hadn't seen her. I hope she wasn't waiting too long. Hi, Cameron.
Hello, everybody.
Hope you weren't waiting too long. I had lost track of looking at the participants there.
That's okay.
You want to introduce yourself, if you would?
Hi, everybody. My name is Cameron Clyburn. I'm principal at Dr. Walter Cooper Academy, located on Congress Ave.
Great.
You want more information?
That's pretty good. You're reopened officially, or except nobody's going to school right now.
Did you get a chance to meet Leah? You beat me on the call.
Yes, Leah. Leah is the
So we're.
new site coordinator for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah, we've got. Surprised we don't see John Lang here. We've got between the Education Committee, the Southwest Common Council Education Committee, and the Schools Committee. We're involved with 4 of the schools that are in receivership right now and working on their CET teams. So we are kept busy, but it's real nice seeing everybody here again today.
John,
Yes.
how many schools in Rochester are in receivership? I know you're working with 4.
I think there were 10 new ones that got put on last year, if I remember right, but
So 10 more, and on to how many?
I don't know. There were a few that were still in receivership, but I don't have an accurate count right now. Anybody know?
They're listed on the website. I can count them.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I can look
It's
at it.
around 12, I want to say, but I'm not for sure.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So, and of course, a lot of the things that we started talking about doing last fall kind of got blown to smithereens by the pandemic and, you know, the whole change in the way we're able to get together, for one thing. If somebody told me a year ago that I'd be doing Zoom, I wouldn't have known what Zoom was, but it's changed a lot of the things we can do and how you can deliver education to the kids. So anyways, the reason we, as I think I've explained, the reason we got going on looking at the question of making sure everybody had broadband access in Rochester is, you know, seeing the effort that the schools were doing getting hotspots out to students who needed it, and the hardware that they need to be able to connect with the schools. It also highlights the fact that there are a lot of people out there who don't have the necessary equipment and the necessary connections, and hopefully my wife will catch that. So that's one thing I meant to do, was shut off the phone going down here before we started. So anyways, it sounds like we had a good meeting last week. I don't know how many, if any of you had a chance to look at the video or the meeting notes from last Thursday, but we had a good meeting, and Sean went over some of the state of affairs right now. Did you hear anything more about the Green Light Network, Sean?
So I looked up the article that I had read with regards to the Park Ave thing that I was speaking of, and it appears that depending on which article you read, it phrased things differently.
Mm-hmm.
So the city came to an agreement with Green Light, and it's basically a waiver of fees for service, but I can't find any more information than that, where Green Light basically agreed to provide some undisclosed services to the city, up to and including providing subsidized internet services in exchange for a waiver of the those permit fees that we were speaking of.
Mm-hmm.
It is universal to the entire city. It is not just that Cobbs Hill Park Ave neighborhood that I was thinking it was. However, Greenlight basically said, since we had already shut down our engineering, the only thing we would be able to get built this year is that, because we already had the work done. So that was the extent of what they had planned on installing by the end of 2020, was the additional Park Ave and Cobbs Hill properties. One of the articles suggested that it has something to do with them waiting to do their fiber installs until roadwork is already going to be done. But it's really just like DNC articles and stuff like that, not first-person sources. So as much as I trust our news to provide us factual and perfect information, they're abbreviating for and not providing the actual technicals of the agreement. It is, however, an agreement that is controlled by the mayor's office. So the mayor's office would have the ability to maneuver within that agreement. To what extent, I wouldn't know without the actual agreement, if you know what I mean. So that does lend hope to bringing in those fiber developers. What the incentive would be to bring them to a specific area, to allow them to get to provide subsidized service or or whatever, that I don't know.
Okay. So it sounds like there may be movement and green light in next year sometime. Did we ever get a good feel for how quickly they could expand within the city?
As with everything, it's actually down to how much contractor you can hire. You could expand the entire city within 12 months if you could find that many people that were qualified to do the fiber laying jobs. It's a matter of lack of skilled trade. And the people that have that, the more that you're hiring, the higher the rates go, the more that, sort of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like if you were to try to hire every plumber in Monroe County, the last couple guys in are going to realize that they're not in high demand and going to demand extra money. So.
Yeah, and I imagine that there's probably a lot of competition throughout the country for people with those skills right now, as everybody has got some of the same interests we have for getting the broadband expanded. As far as, Mary,
John, talking about skills, I thought somewhere we were going to have Wade Norwood on talking about expansion or vocational schools. So that...
Yeah, we should. I need to get back on that because we've been sidetracked with other things for the last, or I've been neglectful on following up on it. Thank you for reminding me.
But it's important for the kids.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, the network engineer, knock tech, that sort of field industry, they're importing people into Rochester every day because of the fact that they can't find enough workers in the area. So, I mean, the fact that they're bringing people from Atlanta and New York City to Rochester, it because there's just a shortage of people continuously in those fields. So.
John, a group of us had worked with Mark Veldon in Washington in the Labor Department to bring some programs here. But unfortunately, we didn't get money to work with us here. But maybe they could bring something into the schools. I don't know. Maybe it's worth a try at the schools.
This was who in Washington that you were working?
Mark Veldon from the Labor Department in Washington, D.C. A group of us were working with connected communities. We wrote every level of everything for everything. And one of them for jobs was all the different labor departments. And this Mark Zeldin, he was wonderful. It's worth a try to see if anyone in the vocational pool or somewhere can say, how can you help our schools with programs?
Now, he was in the Labor Department?
Labor Department. I've got his information
Yeah.
if you want it. Yeah.
In what capacity
He's
were...
in charge of working with community people like us, and with churches and that who are interested, to raising the level of their communities.
How long ago was this that you interacted with him?
We tried, might be almost a year ago. Now, time's gone with this pandemic. I think every day Sunday.
Yeah.
And it was Dorothy Parham, Janie Anderson, and myself went downtown. And Mark Zeldin got on the phone. I set it up with him. But then they gave us Lomax to work with, Lomax Campbell. But he was going to give Dorothy some internships, and then they gave us LaShondra, who was a social worker to work with, but she sent me an email how good the jobs were. So we had no place to go, but I'm thinking that the training, maybe there's training that can be used for schools. Or even if it isn't used in the school capacity, someone could set up that somehow our children could get that training. I hate to say it, but, well, I shouldn't hate to say it, but I think a lot of these jobs are worth a lot more than a BA today. I mean, these skills are so needed.
Yeah.
It's a shame they're recording people. It's a shame. Our people need jobs.
Yeah, we'll.
I'll give you the information. John.
Okay, yeah, let's talk some more on
He's a
it.
very nice gentleman. In fact, I called Washington to get his email, and he got right on the phone.
Is this something that they could work with Edison or something like that?
I have no idea. I didn't work on the school for the schools. I just said, what do you have that you can bring jobs into
Okay.
Rochester?
Thank you. Any other questions or thoughts? Suggestions? Okay, yeah, one of the things that I had done on the agenda that we had there was to point to the fact that, if I can find it here somewhere, we have item number 3 on the agenda, which refers to Managed School Choice Task Force info. We've been talking with Amy Malloy quite a bit. She's interested in getting the information that had been pulled together for any changes to the Managed School Choice Program. Back 4 years ago, I think it was, we worked for a 6-month stretch or so with Liz Hallmark and a number of volunteers from wondered where it was. Okay. Hopefully I can find that battery later today. We had gotten a task force, worked with the task force for 6 months, looking at changes that might be made to the Managed School Choice Policy. And one of the big things that had been suggested by most of the people who were on that task force was to try to minimize kids getting bused across town unless there's a valid reason for going from where they live to a particular school that's halfway across town. If there's a particular program there that gives them a good reason for choosing that school, that's great. But if it's just to get on a bus, we should have busing to their local school, because if their local school is no better than the one they're being bused to, it just separates parents from their child's school and reduces the ability of having interaction between parents and their child's school. And it also reduces the contact that kids have with their own neighborhood. You'd like to have a sense of neighborhood so that, for instance, when School 16 got closed 2 blocks away from here, there were quite a few people who had had a history with that school. Their kids had gone there or they had gone there, and they came to the rescue, and we were able to pull together quite a group of people to try to help that school weather the storm at the time. And the same thing was the case with School 10. So the long and short of it is that the busing issue, which of course comes down to the state, requires 1.5 miles. You have to get a child bused 1.5 miles before they get reimbursed, before the school, Rochester City School District, gets reimbursed for having bused the child. So that's one of the things that's pushing parents to choose a school that's 1.5 miles away. And you know, you look at that, and we've been fighting this probably since the managed school choice program started back in 2002. Before that, there was some crosstown busing, but it was primarily for magnet schools, and you couldn't just pick a school because that's where you wanted your child to go to if it wasn't a school that had a particular program. So within weeks of Eleanor putting me in touch with Ralph Spezio when we were trying to help School 16 out, the issue of the busing came up, and we started looking at that. So in our case, for at least 8 years, we've been fighting the fight, and we haven't been able to get through to Albany to make the necessary changes in that. And you start wondering, who's making money? Why is it so hard to get those changes made? And some of it is, well, certainly the bus companies may have their preferences one way or the other, although they still have a lot of work busing kids to the local school, and it would be a lot more productive for building community to do it that way. But there are, something must be very attractive overall, and one of them may well be that if you keep busing kids all over town and reducing the effectiveness of the schools by separating parents from their child's school, you get to close a lot more schools and have a lot more charter schools open up. So there's, it's almost feels like, gee, we're having conspiracy theories about why is the busing so hard to shut off, but there have to be things of that nature going on, because there are a lot of people that are influential in Albany that would like to see a lot more privatization of schools. So that's one of the things that we've been working with the Coalition for Public Education and trying to make sure that they keep that front and center. And we've got to get back together with Wade Norwood again and talk a bit more about, what can be done to change that. But anyways, I was pleased to find out. I was talking to one lady at the West Side Farmers Market, and she had heard that the superintendent had heard about Liz Hallmark's group, and apparently it was from having transferred a lot of that information to Amy Malloy, who's been championing trying to get the crosstown busing problem improved by pushing for local busing and reducing the amount of travel that we see in the community. course, right now nobody's traveling anywhere except to their Zoom meetings, but it's going to become an issue again within a few months, I'm sure. Okay, have we gotten any, certainly from what Howard Maffucci was saying earlier, you know, item 4, number 2 there, you'd like to get systems out there, whether it be Wi-Fi or fiber optic or cable or whatever, that will give people who can't afford to pay for the service a good enough connection so that they can make use of their home connection for searching for work, working from home, or having their children be involved in online learning. And we were talking last time, Sean, about how much bandwidth was needed for some of those things.
I think that the way to sort of figure that is to just defer to our federal government on that. They consider anything under 6 meg to be a non-connection at this point, that you don't have any viable internet connection. 12 meg is the minimum for having a high-speed connection, and from the FCC. And if you go to the Department of Agriculture, they consider a farm not to have a high-speed connection and thus be able to participate in the markets effectively unless they have at least a 25 meg connection. So somewhere in that 6 to 25 meg is the minimum to consider yourself connected to the internet by modern standards. But that's a floor. So it would depend upon whether you're looking to do a long-term solution, or are we looking to do a patch for right now solution? You know, a patch for right now solution, you're probably okay with that 6 meg profile to get students to be able to connect right now. If you're looking for a long-term, you know, come in afterwards to make this never be an issue again, you're going to want to be more towards that 25, you know, to avoid it being, well, that was great, but now that we're doing 3D holographic, you know, projects in science class, you know, like,
Yeah.
I don't know what'll happen in 5 years, you know. You don't want to short yourself on that either. So that's really your sweet spot range. And then where you go from there is you know, dependent upon time frame.
Mm-hmm.
John, what did you
Yeah.
say about 25 meg? Did you say farms?
Yes, the Department of Agriculture has a program for farms that are not connected to receive, like, the local telco in the area can receive money from the Department of Agriculture to hook up a farm so that it has high-speed internet services so that you can sell your wheat and run your robotic tractors and all sorts of things that, you know, you and I might not think of as farming, but that are, you know, very vital to the farm infrastructure these days. I was once on an outage for Blue Diamond Farms, the people that make the nuts, and they were figuring that their lack of internet was costing them $2 million an hour from not being able to know when to have the watering work because their sprinkler systems were on the internet. You know, it's even the farms these days need to be connected. So.
Okay. Have we found out anything more about what the cost and capability of the MiFi hotspot systems that the schools are handing out? Pat, were you going to look into what the libraries were paying for that, as I recall?
I have a ballpark figure on the cost. I don't know anything about the capability, but for the first purchase, they bought 20 to 30 and had a 1-year contract. They didn't charge the library for the units themselves, the first go around. They're normally about $80 each.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they charged them for when we ordered the 500. I can't believe that T-Mobile would just hand us 500 mobile hotspots. The monthly service cost is $30 per month per unit for unlimited data, and Joe says no throttling of the speed, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And there are other levels of service, is what he said.
And the speed is what? Did they say what the speed was?
I don't know what the speed is. No.
I just added a link into the chat if you want to grab it at some point, and you can then just test what you're actually getting, not really the advertised, but what you're actually getting. And it's Speakeasy because they're trying to sell voice services, so but they're a very reliable test because they want that higher quality sort of voice service stuff to work for you.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's nice to know that $30 a month, and they're not throttling those systems down.
Nobody is right now, just so you're aware. Every telco in existence signed the COVID "We Won't Throttle Anybody" pledge. Sort of very similar to the banks not foreclosing houses and things like that. There's a lot of we won't disconnect during the pandemic. We won't throttle during the pandemic stuff. That doesn't mean that. I mean, you guys might have gotten a good deal that doesn't throttle as well, but nobody's throttling on any of their contracts right now. So, just for everybody's awareness.
Okay. What does throttle mean?
So, there's a sort of a theoretical limit of 23 gigs, where anybody who uses more than 23 gigs is using a lot of services. And generally, if you go over that, they turn your maximum speed down. So you might have say a 6 meg normally, but if you get over that, you have half a meg.
Well, let me look for it, I'll let you know if I see it.
And by turning it down that way, they know that you aren't congesting the network for other customers. All of the internet services are what's referred to as oversubscribed. So if I have 100 meg worth of bandwidth, I sell 400 meg worth of bandwidth to my customers, knowing that you're not downloading a web page at the same time as John's downloading a web page at the same time as I'm downloading a web page, because you have to download it and then read it, and then download the next one and then read it, and so there's that little bit of gap. So everybody oversubscribes to some extent, and so if they find somebody who's really using all the bandwidth, they throttle it back so that it leaves that oversubscription left.
Thank you.
John, can you check the waiting room?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes. Wondered where she had gone to. Hey, welcome back. Okay, let's see, what else did we have here? The MiFi hotspots, that's basically the same thing. It's a cell tower system. It's using the same cell towers that your phone is using. And we don't have any issues with connection, you know, from leaves or things of that type, or at least not nearly as bad as for the Wi-Fi systems we had been talking about, which are more susceptible to interference there. I guess we don't have, we were talking $30 a month for the MiFi. It sounds like, how that, is somebody saying something?
Sounds like we can hear somebody else having a conversation.
Somebody else is having a conversation there. Okay, so the cost of, back when we were looking at the Wi-Fi systems, Sean, we were down in the weeds as far as the speeds we were looking at. As I recall, they were more like 1 megabit per second or 2 megabit per second.
It was typically going to be in that 2 to 6 range. Which at the time was considered a good connection a couple years ago, which is part of the reason why I said, depending on how long you're intending the whatever you're looking at here to last is going to be an important thing of how fast you need to make it.
Yes, that certainly is a advantage for the MiFi type system, where if the school hands out units or people borrow them from the library, the networks that are servicing the phones in the area are going to make improvements to their cell towers as time goes on, and that will keep the hotspot equipment that people have working at the rate that they are now. They'll just be able to link up more units to the cell towers, I assume. The 5G is something that people are starting to talk about. Is that really something that we need to be looking at for this?
I don't know the rate of 5G deployment in the Rochester area. I know that they put out some of the initial towers for that, but I don't know what the actual activation timeframes for that are.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, we've got about 6 minutes to go. We're going to try to keep this down to an hour. We've got walk-in items. Has anybody got something they want to bring up that...
I actually do.
Oh, good.
So, on a completely and totally different shift of gears, also to do with education though, the Rochester City School District and the Teachers Union had released a press release that they were going to be moving all of the superintendents' conference days to the beginning of the year on the 14th, on the 14th they released that press release in order to enable teaching and training for the remote learning stuff. As of today, the city school district calendar, if you go on their website, does not reflect those changes. Does anybody know whether those changes are actually being implemented, since we're only 10 days from, 14 days from the beginning of the school year? I as a parent, kind of would like to know already.
They are still in place for the Superintendent's Day, and the first day of students will be Monday the 14th.
So Monday the 14th is going to be the first Students' Day.
Correct. Okay. Yes.
Does anybody have a way to get the website changed? Because that would be really handy for other parents.
I actually just worked with one of the website managers. I'm gonna send him an email right now.
Thank you.
But I think I have a feeling it might have something to do with board approval.
Okay.
But I also think, Chantel, that they changed the at a glance. That's been updated, but I don't know if the full calendar has been adjusted yet. But the at a glance is changed.
Oh, okay.
Where can you find
Did you see that one?
At a glance, Cameron? Where can you find the updated one?
Here, let me put a link in. I'll put it in it for you guys. Hold on.
Thank you.
That's the one that I just pulled off the website.
Yeah,
Which is
That
the at a glance.
right.
Yes, I haven't found it, so thank you, because I haven't
But
been able to find it.
But the at a glance is still has all of the superintendent's conference days spread throughout the year. So
Oh, okay, yeah. I haven't found it.
that's why I was asking, is because
Yeah.
that was the one I had found.
The board did approve it though, Sean, so it was mentioned in one of the parent forums, so it's all approved. You're right, if one Chantal can help us get things updated, that'll help a lot of parents. Thank you. Good point.
I'll email Tom at CO right now.
Thank you.
Is your daughter still over at Wilson Foundation, Sean?
No, my older actually has moved to Mercy for middle and high school at this point.
Okay.
And my younger is over at 53 in the Montessori Academy.
Oh, great.
Because that just the educational program over there met her needs better than Wilson Foundation did. So
Okay.
she's much more of that sort of contemplative, hands-on than the like in-depth study booky. So
Good. All right. Anything else that anybody has?
Yeah, there have been no changes to the library hours so far this week that I'm aware of. So Arnett is still open for walk-in services and the gamut with the whole social distancing, health screening stuff in place. Wheatley is still doing curbside. The tech center at Central Library, which is where the computers were all moved to, did open this week. They had a soft opening, so it hasn't been publicized yet, but it is open. There are a limited number of computers. People are being given at all the libraries that are open the a 60-minute time limit on the computers. If you're not aware of where the tech center is, it was placed, all of the public service computers from the library were placed into the old teen center, which was in the link, and that's where it now is.
So libraries like Arnett, do they have any computers available, or?
Yeah, Arnett, all of the four branches that are open, Arnett, Maplewood, Lincoln, and Witten all have computer availability.
Okay. Very good.
And the Wi-Fi is on 24/7 at all of the branches at this point. It was done in March when we went closed. They turned the Wi-Fi on at all of the branches.
Okay. One of the things that we had talked about back when we were looking at some of the Wi-Fi approaches was an extending network reach with what was the where you add additional nodes to network, Sean.
yeah, meshing it up. Yeah.
Mesh, yeah. Is there a way of extending the reach that the libraries have using that sort of system?
Not without working with the library IT systems, because you would, the mesh and the base unit need to be talking together to do it effectively.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's way outside me.
yeah, no, you'd have to work with the IT services that do and maintain those. You couldn't just ad hoc it on.
Okay.
At least not without being very gray in the legal areas.
Alrighty. Okay, well, anything from
John,
any?
I'll send you the information.
Yeah, send me that information and we'll see what,
Last thing he said to me was, Mary, you were the first one I thought of when Kodak got the jobs, and now look what's happened. Our citizens do not have a snowball in hell, and we're not here for ourselves. We're here for our children, our citizens, so they get a better quality of life. And education's the big door, and jobs is also. So let's move forward. And thanks, John, you do a lot of work.
well, let's keep in touch. I'm sure we've got, in fact, we've got some assignments from School 19 for the CET team there, and I'm sure we'll be hearing from the others also. We'll keep you informed if anything comes out of the Rochester Coalition for Public Education. We've got a meeting scheduled for, I think it's early next week. But at any rate, I'll be talking to some of you at CET meetings, and we'll have this meeting again 1 month from today. So I want to thank all of you for participating. And if you have any information that you need to get to me so that we can do some planning for particular items to put on the agenda for next month, don't hesitate to contact me. And I thank you very much, and we'll call it a meeting.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.